what this is? This is the Parliament House. It is where the Parliament of India sits. That is, members of Parliament come from all regions of the country, and they cannot make laws sitting in their homes individually. So all these members have to come together and they sit in the Parliament of India, in the Parliament House, to make these laws. What are parliamentary procedures? Parliamentary procedures is the way the Parliament functions. Just like there is a decorum or good manners and rules to be maintained in school or in any other public place, so parliamentary procedures are the rules, ethics, customs that govern the meetings of the assembly or of the parliament. So the first out of these is a session. So what is a session? A session is a period of time in which the houses of the parliament sit to discuss and formulate laws. So generally there are 3 sessions that are held in the parliament. The first one is called the budget session, which runs from February to May. The second one is the monsoon session, which goes on from July to August. And the third one is the winter session, which goes on from November to December. Now, these 3 sessions are held almost every year. So the rule says that even though 3 are supposed to be held every year, at least 2 of them should be held every year. And the time period between these 2 compulsory sessions should not exceed or should not become more than 6 months. Now, apart from these general sessions that are held every year, there might be a need for joint sessions. So what is a joint session? A joint session is the collective meeting of all members of the parliament. So when members of the parliament from both houses, that is the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, collectively sit under one roof, then those meetings are known as joint sessions. The joint sessions are summoned, that is, they are called by the President on advice of the Prime Minister when a deadlock occurs. So we have to now understand what a deadlock is. But first we have to know that who presides over these joint sittings. The Speaker, that is the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, presides over these meetings, over the joint sessions. So now that we've learned that a joint session is called by the President, when a deadlock occurs, we have to understand what a deadlock is. So when I say the term deadlock, what do you understand? It means that the discussion of the parliament has reached a dead end and no further progress or no further proceedings can be made from here. So when does this happen? It happens when a bill that has been passed by one house is rejected by the other. So we know that a bill becomes a law when it is passed by both the houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and gets the assent of the President. So if the bill has been passed by one of the houses and the second house has not agreed to what the bill says and the bill has been rejected by the second house, then there may be a deadlock. The second reason can be if the houses have finally disagreed as to the amendments made to the bill. So maybe the first house has passed a bill which has gone to the second house. The second house had made some amendments and then sent it back to the first house. But the first house doesn't agree to these amendments and rejects the bill. So here also a deadlock might occur. And the third reason is when more than 6 months have passed from the date of receipt of the bill by the other house without it being passed by it. So The first house has passed a bill, the second house has received the bill, but it has not sent the bill to the president or sent it back to the first house. And in such a situation, 6 months have passed. So the second house has withheld the bill. So here also a deadlock might occur. Now, as we said, that a deadlock is presided over by the speaker. Just like normal sessions in the Rajya Sabha is presided over by its head or its presiding officer, the chairman, or the Lok Sabha is presided over by its speaker. The joint sessions are presided over by the speaker of the Lok Sabha because the Lok Sabha has a higher strength than that of the Rajya Sabha. Now imagine that it has rained all night. In the morning, the roads are waterlogged, there is water everywhere, and the roads are in such a bad condition that people cannot travel. But you have somehow managed to reach your school. You go to school and realize that very few students have made it to school like you. Like here we can see there are 3 students who have gone to school. What does the teacher do in such a situation generally? If many sections have the same subjects, she might merge the classes together so that there is a higher number of students in the class. Or what generally happens is that she suspends the class and postpones it to another day because there are not enough number of students for a fruitful discussion or a fruitful class to take place. The next day, when the sun is up, when the day is nice, when a lot of students have come to school, the teacher takes the class because now there are enough number of students for her to take a proper class. Similar things happen in the parliament houses, in the Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha. There is a need for quorum. Now, what is a quorum? Quorum refers to the minimum number of members required to be present for conducting a meeting of the House. So, there is a need for a minimum number of elected representatives to be present in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha for a meeting to proceed or a meeting to be valid. The quorum is 1/10 of the total strength of the House. So we know that the strength of the Lok Sabha is 545 members at present. So what is 10% or 1/10 of that number? Therefore, the quorum for Lok Sabha is 55 members. Similarly, we know that the Rajya Sabha at present has 245 members. So 1/10 of the membership of Rajya Sabha, that is 25 members, have to be present at a meeting for that meeting to be valid or for that meeting to start taking place. Now, don't you follow a routine in school? Yes. Your day is divided into different periods where different teachers teach different subjects. This is done so that your entire day is efficiently used or utilized. Just like that, in a parliament, the parliament's day is divided into several periods, even in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Now, as you can see here, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., the first hour of sitting is called the question hour. The second hour, that is from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., is called the zero hour. These are the 2 most important periods of sitting in a parliament. For the rest of the day, there is the other business of the House that goes on, which includes passing motions and passing of the bills. So the first hour of sitting of the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha is called the question hour. It is called the question hour because the first hour of sitting of the parliament is devoted to asking and answering of the questions. It goes on from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., which is the first hour of sitting. During this hour, the members of parliament ask their questions and the concerned ministers have to answer them. For example, if a certain member of parliament has a doubt regarding why a certain amount of money has been allotted to new buses, then probably the finance minister or the transport minister can answer these questions. But these questions have to be passed through the presiding officers of the house. For example, in the Rajya Sabha, it has to pass through the chairman, and in the Lok Sabha, it has to pass through the speaker of the Lok Sabha. And these questions need about 10 to 15 days prior permission to be presented in the parliament. But you might be thinking, then why 10 to 15 days are needed for the answering of one question? It is because the government is a complex organization and all the ministries are linked together. To get the information with proper facts and data, there needs to be coordination between these ministries. So one minister cannot definitely answer one question because it needs the help and input from the other ministries as well. So the question hour goes on for 1 hour. Since India is a democracy, the people of the country have the right to ask questions and get their questions answered by their representatives who are the ministers and who run the country. So the right of the members to ask questions from the government is called interpellation. So through this interpellation, the representatives can get their questions answered on behalf of the common public of the country. And hence this process, interpellation, holds the ministers accountable to the people for the functioning of their various ministries. So now that we've talked about the question hour, let us go through the types of questions that can be asked during this question hour. So the first type of question is called starred questions. Starred questions are marked by an asterisk mark. As you can see in this example here, there's a small asterisk mark here. This is how you know that this question is a starred question. Now, starred questions are questions which require an oral answer. So the ministers who will be answering these questions have to answer it orally or through spoken words. 15 days prior notice has to be given for these questions to be presented in the House. And if the member of parliament who has asked this question is not satisfied with the answer that the minister has given, he can re-question or put up an extra question, which is called a supplementary question. So the second type of question that can be asked is an unstarred question. So the star, that is the asterisk, is missing here. As we saw in the starred question, there was an asterisk here, which is not present here in the unstarred question. Unstarred questions are questions which require a written answer. So, when the members of parliament ask an unstarred question, the minister has to give the answer in writing. Here also, 15 days prior notice is to be given before it is presented in the House. Another difference that an unstarred question has with a starred question is that no supplementary questions can be asked here. So even if the minister has given an answer which has not made the member of parliament satisfied, he can still not ask an extra question. And the third type of questions that can be asked are called short notice questions. As you can understand from the very name, short notice questions are questions of urgent public importance which can be asked on a short notice. Now this short notice is a period lesser than 10 days. So when the questions are so important that they cannot have gotten a prior permission from the speaker, then those questions are short notice questions. Now since these questions are short notice questions which have not gotten prior permission, so the minister might not have enough statistics or data or information at that particular point of time. So he has the right to deny to answer this question at the moment. Have you ever seen an ongoing parliamentary session on your television? You might have seen these heated debates or arguments going on. This time, during which these heated arguments go, is generally the 0 hour. The 0 hour is the second hour, which begins at 12 o'clock and ends at 1 o'clock. During this time, the ministers can be asked questions on any topic without any prior notice. So, this is the time that the ministers engage in discussions and debates with each other, and since the questions have no prior notice, so the arguments and discussions often get very heated. And hence, the speaker has to maintain the orderly functioning of the house during this time. This ensures the right of the opposition to question the government. This is why the 0 hour is the most important hour of a parliamentary session. Now, why is it called a 0 hour? That is because 0 hour is a time during which very critical decisions are taken. And with all of this discussion, we can understand why the 0 hour is such a critical time. Do you know that during the monsoon session of 2020, the government had cancelled the question hour in view of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic? This received excessive criticism from the other parties because they thought that they would lose their right to question the government and to get answers. So, what do you think? Do you think that this was the right move, considering that it increased the risk of the MPs to get COVID? Or do you think that this was a deliberate or a diplomatic move by the government so that they could not be questioned about their handling of the COVID-19 situation? We know that the main function of the parliament is to make laws. The making of laws requires a lot of debates, discussions, analysis, explanations. So, the motion, as we can see here, is just a topic or subject for this discussion. A motion is a formal proposal put forward by a member saying that the particular matter should be taken up for debate or discussion in the House since it is a matter of public importance. So the motions are the topics which are discussed in the Parliament. The other members can reject the motion or accept the motion by putting up their views on it. A motion can be discussed only with the consent or permission of the presiding officer. So in the Lok Sabha, the permission of the speaker has to be taken before a motion can be initiated. And similarly for the Rajya Sabha, the permission of the chairman is required. Now the first motion that we will be discussing is an adjournment motion. Imagine that in a parliament house, discussions are going on regarding a law for increasing the reservation of women in a government job, or laws are being discussed about marriage and divorce. And suddenly there has been a flood which has occurred yesterday, or a tsunami which has affected many people. Now, of course, these laws about marriage, dowry, divorce, government reservation, they are very important. But in the present context, don't you think that the news of the tsunami or the news of the flood, which requires urgent action, is more important? During these times, it is the adjournment motion which is passed. So, an adjournment motion is passed to draw the attention of the House to a matter of urgent public importance. The adjournment motion interrupts the normal business of the House. Now, how does it do that? How does it interrupt the normal business of the House? That is because it is issued immediately without any prior notice. So, when an adjournment motion is passed, the prior permission is not needed, because of which the normal ongoings or business of the House has to be stopped. Now, how do you think that a single person can decide what is of urgent public importance or what is not of urgent public importance? You are correct. A single person does not decide this. An adjournment motion has to be supported by at least 50 members for it to be taken up for discussion. This is an issue of urgent public importance, so it has to be a very recent occurring and the discussion has to go on for at least 2.5 hours. The adjournment motion, as any other motion, can be passed with the consent of the presiding officer. Now let us talk about adjournment of the House. But the adjournment of the House is not equal to the adjournment motion. They are very different things. Let us not confuse the two. So what is an adjournment of the House? Adjournment of the House is the postponement of the sittings or proceedings of the House from one time to another specified for the reassembling of the House. So, when a meeting has to be stopped or it has to be postponed or suspended, then it is called the adjournment of the House. Every day after the normal proceedings of the House have finished, there needs to be adjournment of the House. The House can be adjourned only by their presiding officers. So the Rajya Sabha can be adjourned by the chairman of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha can be adjourned by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Now let us go through the reasons why the House can be adjourned. So as we've said, when the business of the day is over, the House needs to be adjourned. So after every day's meeting, the members of Parliament go home and the meeting has ended, so the House is adjourned. Now we've also learned that a minimum number of members is required for the proceedings of the House to be valid, which is called the quorum. So when there is a lack of quorum, the meetings are not valid or the proceedings do not continue, which is when the House needs to be adjourned. The third point is when there is difficulty in controlling the decorum of the House. We've talked about the 0 hour when there are heated arguments and the Speaker has to control the House. During this 0 hour and certain other periods, there might be unruly behavior in the House where the MPs are shouting slogans or not following the parliamentary decorum. During this time, it becomes very difficult to maintain the sanctity of the House, which is when the presiding officer has to adjourn the House. And the last point is when there is a death of an ex-member, the House is adjourned. For example, when there is news of death of any of the ex-members or national dignitaries or leaders who are very important personalities, then the House has to be adjourned to show respect to these people and to honor their death. Do you think this is a good practice? That to show respect to someone or to show honor for someone's death, the parliamentary proceedings are delayed? Or do you think that delaying work should not be the right way of honoring someone? There is another type of adjournment which is called adjournment sine die. Sine in Latin means without and die in Latin means day. So when you join these two, it becomes without a day, or more properly put, with no appointed date. So when the House is adjourned and no specific date has been declared for the next meeting, then it is known as adjournment sine die. So when the presiding officer adjourns the meeting without fixing any day or time for the next meeting, it is known as adjournment sine die. Generally, at the end of each session, the House is adjourned sine die. This is because sometimes it becomes difficult to schedule a next date for the next session where all the members will be available and present for the meetings. Now imagine that your class has elected a monitor. The monitor initially works well, but after some time now, the monitor is not efficiently performing his duties or representing what the students want to say. So in this situation, would you all want the monitor to continue? No. You all have to go together to the teacher and tell the teacher that you all don't want this monitor anymore. A no confidence motion in a parliament is a similar function. So a no confidence motion is a parliamentary motion which is moved in the Lok Sabha against the entire Council of Ministers. This motion mainly highlights the fact that the public doesn't have any faith or trust in the present government anymore. So this motion is passed only in the Lok Sabha and it cannot be passed in the Rajya Sabha. This passing of a no confidence motion is a matter of losing of respect and dignity of the present government. So it cannot be allowed very frequently, which is why it is admitted only when a minimum of 50 members support it. When the no confidence motion is passed, if the majority of the people of the Lok Sabha have voted for the no confidence motion rather than against it, then the entire ministry has to vacate. That is, the Prime Minister along with his entire Council of Ministers have to vacate the office. Do you know that in 1999, the government under Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee fell because of the no confidence motion? So, during this time, when the no confidence motion was initiated and put to voting, the opposition had given 270 votes, while the BJP government, the party from which Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was present, had given 269 votes. So, this government lost just by a single vote, after which these people, the BJP-led government, had to vacate their offices. Now, sometimes you might have to understand the difference between adjournment and prorogation. So, as we've learned, adjournment is when a sitting of the House is terminated. And prorogation means termination of a session. So, when one sitting is terminated, it is known as adjournment, while when the whole session consisting of several sittings is terminated, it is known as prorogation of the House. So the prorogation of the House is ordered by the President of India on the advice of the Prime Minister and his cabinet. Let us just quickly recap all that we've learned and all that falls under parliamentary procedures. So the first one is a session. A session is a period of time during which the Houses of Parliament sit to discuss and formulate laws. We know that there are 3 sessions that are held throughout the year, which is the budget session, the monsoon session, and the winter session. Other than these 3 general sessions, joint sessions can also be held, which is when the members of parliament from both the houses, that is the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, come together and meet under one roof. Then we've talked about the quorum, which is the minimum number of members that have to be present in a meeting to make the meeting valid. We've talked about the question hour, which is the first hour of sitting of the houses of the parliament from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., where questions are asked and answered. The second hour is the 0 hour, which takes place from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., where questions are asked on any topic to the ministers without any prior notice. We've also discussed about a motion, which is just the topic or the subject for discussion. We know about 2 of these motions, one the adjournment motion and one the no confidence motion. The adjournment motion is passed when there is an issue of urgent public importance, and the no confidence motion is passed to show that the representatives of the nation do not have faith on the working government anymore. We also learnt about adjournment or adjournment of the house, which means the termination of a sitting of the house. We also learnt about prorogation, whereas adjournment is the ending or termination of one sitting. Prorogation is the termination of the entire session of the house. So, all of these things that we've learnt are very important to know for the parliament to work or function efficiently. So, these are known as the parliamentary procedures. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at deltastep.com or download the DeltaStep app to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.